I live in capitalist America, which tells you that the more time you spend working means that the more money you should make, which is why I am on the bottom because apparently I don't work a lot, and people like Mr. Beast and Elon Musk are at the top because they work a lot. Obviously, we all know that's a lie.
You sit on a throne of lies.
But when it comes to cooking, they have the same thing. They say that the more time you spend cooking something means it's going to taste much better, which is why supposedly restaurant food tastes a lot better than homemade food. To verify this fact, I'm going to be trying a bunch of 100-hour recipes to see whether or not they actually taste better than regular made food. And to be completely fair, I do not have a control group. This is just based on complete vibes on whether or not the food actually tastes good, and I think it's worth the hours invested in cooking it. The food I'm making today comes from the 4 major food groups: bread, potatoes, meat, and of course, cookies. That is all you need to survive as a human, and that's what I'm going to be making. I love bread, so that looked absolutely delicious to me, but unfortunately I do not have any sourdough starter just because that seems like a commitment and I'm not really into that. I did do some research though and saw that there was a focaccia recipe that you can leave in the fridge to proof for 100 hours, and you can just do it with active yeast or instant yeast. So that's what I did. I added water, sugar, salt, the flour, and of course yeast. I mixed it all together until I got this rough looking dough. It looks very rough, like it needs some accutane kind of rough. And I put some olive oil over it, covered it with some cling wrap, and then tossed it in the fridge for the next 48, 72 hours. I don't know how long this video is supposed to be, but I tossed it in for I think 48 hours, 2 days.
2 days later.
I lost the footage from when I dumped out the dough into the pan that you see here, but basically I lined the pan with oil. I dumped the dough out, spread it out as much as I can with oil on my fingers to just make sure it's supposed to touch the pan from end to end, but I didn't think I made enough dough. As you can see, there's not enough. Then I topped it off with some onions and then topped it off with some really old sage that was in my fridge. But it looks pretty, so I think it kind of works. And I baked it for like, it was at like 400, 450, whatever the temperature was supposed to be. I'll link the recipe below. I baked it and then it came out basically really sad and flat. That's kind of what it looks like. I had to use a bread knife to literally pry it out of the pan. I'm not sure what happened. There was so much oil in that pan, but I guess it got sucked up. It was basically a cracker. Listen. As you can hear, it was very, very crunchy, but as a focaccia,
No.
total failure. So for me, I'm giving this a 3 out of 10. It was a waste of time. I don't think it tasted that good, and I would probably just try to make a regular focaccia recipe. So right now we are 1 out of 4 for failures. Next up, we're making the 48-hour short rib in a sous vide machine. A sous vide machine is basically something that cooks something really low and slow. I do not have a real sous vide machine, so I am going to be using my Instapot, which has a sous vide button. I seasoned the short ribs with some salt and pepper. I threw it in the little vacuum seal bag that I bought. I don't have a fancy vacuum seal machine, so I had to manually pump out all the air, and it took a bit. Just disregard the hand motions. It's very weird, but you can see it's getting like sucked up. Made sure all the air was completely out of it, and then I threw it in the Instapot. I set my temperature to 144 and then I set it to 48 hours. It's literally going to sit in the Instapot for 48 hours, hopefully cooking. I don't know if this actually works. I did watch some sous vide things, but nothing for 48 hours. So we'll just have to see how it turns out.
2 days later.
Here's what it looks like fresh out of the Instapot sous vide. It looks pretty disgusting, honestly, but I just opened it right up, poured out all the juices that somehow appeared from the meat, and then put it on a plate to get ready to cook it. Again, first look, it looks kind of gross. There's a lot of fat on it, but the inside is super pink. And the meat, as you can see, is super tender. Like I literally just ripped it apart with my bare hands. And when I ate it, it was soft but not mushy and still like a little bit firm. I really liked the texture. It was surprisingly really good. I also looked online and I saw that you're supposed to like sear it off, so that's what I did. I just threw it in a pan with a very little amount of oil just to get like the outside like a little crispy. Well, not crispy, but like a little firm. And then I made this sauce with red wine vinegar with the juices from it, and all in all, this was actually really good. Would I do this again? Yes, simply because there was actually a little to no cooking. You just throw it in the sous vide and let it go. But this was delicious. 8 out of 10. Would recommend. Shout out to the Instapot sous vide button because I think it actually worked. I don't know if this is what it's supposed to look like, but I think it worked for what it is.
Can we all just take a moment of silence for this? Oh, the crunch.
These were originally 15-hour potatoes. However, I needed something that was going to be 48 hours, so I decided to extend the time because the majority of it is sitting in the fridge. I started off by using a mandolin to get my potato slices super paper thin, like almost see-through. And then you're supposed to either use butter, duck fat, beef drippings, etc., some type of fat. So I used ghee, which is clarified butter, added some salt, and mixed it together. And just for variety's sake, so I could see which one would be better, I also used the duck fat, added some salt, mixed that together, and just let the oil and the salt just saturate through everything. After that, it's time to layer. So basically you have your lined pan. I'm using a bread pan and I'm splitting it perfectly in half. Half the side is going to have the ghee potatoes, the other half is going to have the duck fat potatoes, and you're supposed to layer very nicely, but I am very lazy, so at some point I just kind of dumped it in there and hoped for the best. Once that's done, you're going to cover the top with some parchment paper. You're going to put it in the oven and let it cook for 3 hours, and I think it's like a very low temperature, 120 Celsius or 180 Celsius, something like that. After that's done, you're going to take it out, let it cool, cover it with parchment paper one more time, and put some heavy cans on it.
2 days later.
After 48 hours in the fridge, I removed the cans on and wrap it. As you can see, it is a little bit discolored, but that's because it's a potato. It's been sitting out in the fridge, but I cut it into bite-sized pieces and you can see the layers in there. They're pretty condensed for the most part, and I couldn't really tell a difference between the duck fat side and the ghee side. I let my whole heat up to 350, threw it in the fryer, and just let that sit there for a while until it looked like it was golden brown on all sides, and then I took it out. I was supposed to wait to eat it, but I was feeling really greedy, so I just took it out. And as you can hear, it is very crispy, very flaky, and I was very excited to bite into it. I tried the ghee side first, and here's the crunch so you can listen to it. As you can tell, it is very crispy, very crunchy, but the taste is honestly just like a regular potato. It tastes like a fry. The duck fat side was the same thing. It's very crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside like a fry, and it tasted pretty good. However, I would not be making this again because my overall rating is a 6 to 7 out of 10. It tastes good, and if offered, I would eat it, but waiting 48 hours for potatoes, or even the 15 hours for potatoes, is something I'm not particularly interested in doing. So yeah. I'm going to be making Alvin's 48-hour chocolate chip cookies. I'm starting off by making the toffee, which is sugar, salt, and some butter. Just going to brown that in the pan, stirring it together until it gets this nice smooth consistency. Once it's like together, I'm going to pour it over some wax paper, let it cool down in the freezer, and then smash it with a hammer to get toffee pieces that are going to be added into the cookie later. The next step is to brown the butter. It's literally just taking a stick of butter, putting it in the pan, again, medium heat, stirring it constantly until you get this nice, nutty, smelly. It smells nutty, it's not stinky, but it smells really good. You just let that brown, and then I'm gonna add some ice cubes to put the water back in there because that's kind of what's evaporating as it caramelizes. And that is going to be added into our sugar mixture, and the sugar mixture is just brown sugar, white sugar, as well as some coffee. Just gonna stir that together until it is nicely combined, and of course some salt. And then just gonna pour the brown butter all over it and mix it by hand, not with a mixer, until everything is like nice and smooth and silky. Gonna add in 1 egg and then continue mixing that again by hand until it's super smooth and silky. Then I'm gonna add in the flour and salt and baking soda and baking powder. Mix that together again with a hand mixer or a whisk until it's nice and combined. And then you're gonna add in the accoutrements, as they call it. You're supposed to add in chocolate chunks, which I chopped up. This is a dark chocolate bar from TJ's. It's like 72% cacao. Then you're also gonna take the chopped up toffee and you're gonna add that into the dough as well. I really took my anger out on this chocolate bar, like smashed it to pieces. It was very enjoyable. Add in the chocolate chunks, add in the toffee, and just combine everything together with a spatula until it comes together. It's not going to be smooth. Of course, you have to do a taste test, and it tasted delicious already. I could only imagine what it's going to taste like 48 hours later. Take your little cookie scoop or just a spoon, and I just spooned it into a container that was lined with wax paper.
2 days later.
2 days later, here's what it looks like. It's nice and solid. And then I'm gonna put it in the pan. It's gonna get baked in the oven. And here's what it looks like fresh out the oven, fully baked. I took a little cookie cutter thing and I'm just rounding out the edges so it comes out looking like a perfect circle. The smell was amazing. I don't know how to explain the smell, but it was sweet, sugary, dark, like it smelled delicious. I rounded out the cookie and then I sprinkled some salt on top. And yeah, that was it. I made some caramel milk to eat with the cookie, and here's what it looks like when I split it open. This was honestly the best tasting chocolate chip cookie I've ever eaten in my life. The toffee, the brown sugar, the dark chocolate, everything worked amazingly, and with the caramel milk, it just tasted so freaking good. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. I would absolutely make this again and just have it in the freezer. But yeah, long story short, the question I had in the beginning was, does more time equal better tasting food? And I think half and half. Most times, yes, but also most times it's not worth it. I think the only thing that was worth it out of this list of things that I made was the meat in the sous vide, as well as Alvin's chocolate chip cookie. Those two were delicious, would do it again. The potatoes and the focaccia, I can pass. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good day, night, evening, morning. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and also like and subscribe. And if you didn't enjoy it, please tell me what I can do better. And also leave me a comment so you can tell me what I should cook next. Bye.